Alright, I'm super excited for this video, man. It's my birthday weekend. If you want to donate for my birthday, hit the Cash App link in the description. I'm going to have a great weekend, and, to celebrate my birthday, how about we make some content? I celebrate with you guys by making more content, and today we're going to bring some relevant content that I think is crazy because the scaling is by far beyond anything I typically see people talk about when it comes to this topic. The topic today, of course, is the power of He-Man. Now, He-Man has plenty of material from his own runs, his shows, DC comic crossovers, all that. I'm going to discuss Master of the Multiverse and DC comic crossovers featuring stories like him and the Thundercats crossing over, him and Injustice Superman, and many more. And I'm going to explain why He-Man is massively stronger than you thought. His verse is way stronger than you thought. Overall, why he's one of the most dangerous characters in fiction, and why the power sources he uses are wild. Real quick, if you want to see more content on the He-Man verse, scaling like this, if you want to see content on his weapon, which may be beyond the source, stuff like that, make sure to hit the like button. You got to run up the likes on this video if you want it, but I don't want to waste too much time. I want to go ahead and break down some of the masters of the multiverse scaling, get into the characters that you scale He-Man off of, and overall where we can get him with this scaling. So first off, let's talk about the characters in his story that matter and apply to his scaling. So obviously one of his biggest ops, Skeletor, aka skeleton face, embodiment of evil, big ass goon, right? Well, before the crossover with I believe it was 1982 Superman, Skeletor, with half of the power sword, hit Castle Grayskull so hard that it bridged the continuity between Superman's universe and their own. And this was supposed to be power beyond even the limits of the gods, as Castle Grayskull, which you'll find out in a bit, has stupid power residing within its walls. During the Superman He-Man crossover, we actually see that the origins of He-Man does have some ties to the DC universe, as he states his mother came from Earth, but he also has ties to, obviously, his planet Eternia, which I will talk about in a little bit. In the same panel, Superman comments on how fast Cringer is, aka Battle Cat. He-Man says he can go even faster, which impresses Superman, and I mean, obviously, He-Man scales above Battle Cat. But if your speed impresses 1982 Superman, you're ridiculous. This dude used to throw people through time like a football for memes. That's how fast he is, okay? So if you're impressing him, it's crazy. Skeletor, also in this crossover, casually mentions, like, he gets confused when people beef with him because, in his words, quote, "How can this be? How may a simple wall of stone and masonry defy the might of one who has conquered universes?" I'll explain the walls of Grayskull later, like I said. But yeah, Skeletor is no slouch. If y'all want a video on him, run the likes up, because he's a monster. And then the power sword, when He-Man is fighting one half of the power sword in possession of Skeletor. During the battle, He-Man says, "Superman, don't job, don't get hit, be on guard." Of course, it's Superman. He had the job, he gets hit. Superman states in this moment he has never encountered power of this magnitude before. Why is this nuts? Obviously, you got stuff like Swamp Thing, the Green, Spectre, Darkseid, all this. He's met all of them. What's even crazier? If you go back and look in history, 1982 is when this story was around. 1980, Superman encountered the Presence. Think about that. Potentially, this scaling of half of the Sword of Power, or the Power Sword, is beyond the Presence. Nuts. Like, that's crazy. Now, do I think Skeletor with half the sword is beating Presence? No. But it's some wild scaling to think about, and the implications of scaling like this exist all over comics, and you really need to look out for it, because it's some wild stuff. But this encounter, of course, He-Man and this classic Superman fight, He-Man didn't want to hurt him because obviously they were just partners and he knows he's been possessed by magic. But Superman temporarily knocks him down and tries to break into Grayskull Castle, but even still, he was easily going blow to blow with him, and it stated Superman's the strongest in the verse at that time for DC. as is He-Man for his verse, despite countless powerful beings existing in his verse. Now let's talk about some other crossover events he's taken place in, particularly one that really interested me because I've kind of slept on Injustice verse in terms of the universe and comics, but it's pretty strong. Now, during the Injustice crossover, Darkseid used the Soul Siphon to extract the equation. Soul Siphon looked just like the Infinity Gauntlet from Hero's Soul Guardian Castle Grayskull, which means Castle Grayskull, like I mentioned how it's so stupidly strong, holds the power of the anti-life equation within its walls. I mean, he's literally extracting the, quote, equation, the equations within the walls. Grayskull Castle at least has an equation akin to the anti-life. The reason that impresses me is because in DC Comics before, the anti-life has been stated to be almost like one half of the duality of the source. And, I mean, so you could potentially say it's half source wall level, or I mean, just regular source level off Castle Grayskull. The Orb of Power is then brought into the events when Superman and He-Man jump Darkseid, who has the equation siphoned, and the Orb of Power was stronger than the equation, which is nuts. Injustice Superman also says this Orb of Power that he used to defeat Darkseid can tap into the entirety of the DC multiverse. He literally says all layers of realities in creation it can touch and encapsulate, and it can help you control it, whereas if he was to just try to enter that level of power without the orb, he would get erased and uncreated. That's according to Superman himself. Skeletor took the power of Shazam and passed it on to He-Man before he died at the hands of Injustice Superman. With the power of Shazam amping him, He-Man took the Orb of Power from Superman, along with the anti-life equation and Soul of Hero, and destroyed Injustice Superman, with everything returning to normal after this battle. So, with just a Shazam amp, he was on par with a Superman with the power of the DC multiverse. That's disgusting. Mum-Ra, one of the most powerful beings in all of DC creation in this run, was able to force almost like an incursion type event between the Thundercats reality and He-Man's reality, and ultimately Mum-Ra fell to Skeletor, and Skeletor became infused with him. And this design of Skeletor was absolutely dope. Also, like I mentioned, Eternity or Eternia has really good scaling. I'll go ahead and touch on it. So it's stated at one point in the comics, quote, Eternia, it may not look like much upon first sighting, but this unassuming little world is believed by many to be the first magical planet of creation. Crazy. So it actually does have very good scaling, and it's a hard planet to manipulate because of its origins. The eyes of Thundera drove back a Mum-Ra fused Skeletor amped by the Power Sword. So even, you know, the Thundercat stories has crazy scaling. If you want me to cover that, I can do that as well. But like I said, you got to run up the likes. Y'all got to show some love for this stuff. The Sword of Omen is another weapon we're talking about that's used for He-Man scaling. Grants power beyond power. But even that didn't put Lion-O, who had it, comfortably on par with He-Man. As in his own words, Lion-O struggled to actually replicate the feats of He-Man with his swords. The Sword of Omen also grants sight beyond sight and shows He-Man a future with terrible possibilities. These two both have their swords, and like I said, even with these weapons of great power, He-Man technically, at least narratively, should be implied to be above. In this story, we also see He-Man tanked weaponry specifically designed to destroy his mind, and he was just fine. And the Orb of Power was stated by Mum-Ra fused Skeletor to have created the Nexus of Realities, aka the entirety of the multiverse. So it doesn't just power it, control it, it actually created it. It's much stronger, like I said, than we imagined. Now, this is crazy. That power, we're talking about that power plus Mum-Ra amped Skeletor. This was nothing because Sword of Omen and the Sword of Power, both used at the same time, scale above Mum-Ra fused Skeletor and the Orb of Power. So, with his sword, the Sword of Power, He-Man at least is scrapping with beings that at worst you could lowball with their power sources are like half source power level. So yeah, He-Man has some disgusting scaling in his crossovers, and overall is one of the most slept on characters I've run across in scaling in recent memory. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think. If you like these crossover comics, if you like me discussing stories like this, definitely let me know. I loved the art in the Thundercats crossover and things like that, and the stories are cool, and Skeletor's a great villain to me because he's a goon. So if you like content like that, definitely hit the like button and let me know in the comment section. But anyways, it's been your boy YFE. I'll continue to work on getting y'all videos, and anyways, I'll see y'all later. Peace.